Welcome back to Fade to Chat, Golden Age Cinema. In this episode, we're going to continue to explore what we think are defining films, stars, and cultural moments in Hollywood's classic era. I'm Marty Gensius, your co-host, joined by Cindy Rotz, as we're taking a look at, and a thrilling detour into one of Alfred Hitchcock's most stylish and entertaining works. We're going to be talking about North by Northwest, and I watched it again and I hadn't watched it for years, because every time I'm thinking, maybe I'll sit down and watch it, it's like, no, I've seen that so many times that do I really want to watch that, or do I want to watch something else? Well, I watched it last night, and there's so much in this movie. There's just a whole body of trivia about it, and I know you like to kind of dig into that stuff, so I'm curious to see what you've come up with. But I realized how much I enjoy this movie in reference to Hitchcock, and I'm a big Hitchcock fan. But this is kind of the movie for me over some of his other films. And some folks would say it's just too loony. It's not suspenseful enough. But what's your take on it, just before we get started?
Oh, sure. Well, I like you. I watched the movie last night, but I found, and this is just me, I found that I had to watch this movie several times, or at least different parts of the movie. Like, I got confused, and I thought, okay, what are they doing? Why is this happening? And so one of the things I want to talk about as we're going through this is how we watch movies today versus how we used to be able to watch them. Because in order for me to really understand the story, I had to pause the movie, I had to go back and rewatch it and kind of re-listen and say, is that what they said? Is that what really happened? Who is that person? And I had to go back through it several times because it is a very complex movie. And so I was happy that I had that ability to watch it more than once.
Yeah. When you asked how did we get an opportunity to watch films in the past, you asked that question, and I thought, for me, I remember growing up, very rarely went to theaters. There was like the Saturday morning cartoon kids thing that our parents would drop us off at, and with yo-yo contests in between the short films. But in terms of large form cinema or films, if I saw them, they were going to be on television. That was my only opportunity to see them.
Yes.
And I was in Chicago. So in Chicago, the afternoon programming, I think it was on ABC, the ABC network, they would do the afternoon movie. And it would start at around 3:30, about the time I got out of school. And I would come home, and it was either watching kind of stuff on the other networks that I wasn't interested in, or seeing what the movie of the day was in Chicago. And they were, not movies that came out last year. They were movies that came out 10 years before, and some really classic kind of films. So that was the thing. But it was one of those, you can't stop it, you can't pause it, you have commercial interruption, and you have to kind of do the continuity. You can't roll it back, because at that time, of course, we didn't have ways of recording what was going on television. I have a vivid memory of my father, and I would have been 10 years old, taking me to see 2001: A Space Odyssey in the theater. And I think it was because all the people at work were talking about it, and he hadn't seen it yet. So he wanted to go see it, and he thought, I'll take my son with me, because, I'll take my son with me. And so kind of being exposed to Kubrick in 2001 at the age of 10 was kind of an influence. But we didn't get out to the theaters. We didn't go out to the theaters much.
No. And it's interesting, I thought about this when we first started the first podcast, and I thought, what if Marty suggests a movie I haven't seen? How am I going to watch that movie prior to the podcast? I've seen a lot of them, but what if I haven't? Um, so, thinking back to like what you said, I have a memory of my mother who's 95, still living, and she absolutely loves Cary Grant. And she used to call me up, it was usually a Sunday afternoon, and it was like Turner Classic Movies or one of those channels. And she'd say, Cindy, 2 o'clock, Cary Grant's on. I'm like, oh, great. What movie is it? And she'd say, oh, this is a sad one, or this is a good one, or, she'd
Hmm.
give me some information. And then I'd sit down and watch the movie and just, I wasn't going to answer the phone. Like you said, it couldn't be interrupted. That was your window of time to watch that movie. And you didn't have any other choices. So it was like a priority for me. And then I got a TiVo. I don't know if you ever remember
Hmm. Yeah, sure.
TiVo. It's like a VCR, but a TiVo. And I just thought that was the greatest thing because it would tell me such and such a movie is coming on. It would learn my habits. And so then I could record it and I could watch it back. And I thought that was great. And now, of course, I stream everything. I've got the cable, I stream everything. So if you say we're going to watch North by Northwest, I just speak right into the little remote and say North by Northwest, and it
Yeah.
finds it for me and it tells me where it's on. And, then I have the option if I want to rent it, buy it, if it's not on at the moment, but I can pretty much find any movie I want. So it's just
Yeah.
interesting to think about how it's changed and all the movies we have available now that we didn't in the past. And again, you can watch it over and over and over again as many times as you want, whenever you want.
Yeah. When I was just married in my 30s, we got a VCR, which
Mm-hmm.
allowed us to record stuff that was on television it was television. We were cable system, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, that
Mm-hmm.
we weren't around to watch or rent VHS tapes to be able to look at videos. And so it was kind of the Friday night trip to Blockbuster to get those films and
Yeah.
see if you could get them, and then it switched to Netflix and discs coming in the mail that you would order
Mm.
and such.
Mm. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Now
And then, of course, you
everything
had to
from
watch when you returned them.
yeah,
If you didn't return them too
and
late.
sometimes I'd rip them. There are ways to kind
Mm.
of pull that movie out there. So
Yeah.
starting a collection, and now I've basically turned it all over to Apple TV and movies on Apple TV. So every Tuesday, their new films come out. I take a look and see what's there.
Mm.
I purchase them, so I have, well, I don't purchase them. I guess I pay them money so I can rent them and watch them whenever I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a son who also likes movies, and I think I don't know what I'm gonna do because do I leave him my Apple account and then he continues to pay for it? Because I've got close to 600 or 700 movies in there. I have
Oh,
tons.
my.
And
Wow.
it's like, yeah, I'll watch that on a plane sometime, or I'll get it. I'll wait till it
Yeah.
drops in price, or I saw it in
Yeah.
the theater. I'd like a copy of it, but I'll pay $9.99 for it instead of right now. It's like $29 for
Mm-hmm.
films. It's crazy. So
Yeah. That's another good point because whenever I fly, I'm not a really good flyer. I get a little anxious sometimes. And if we're on a particularly long flight, I always make sure I have my iPad with me and I've got either TV shows or movies loaded up because it just takes my mind off of the flight and makes it go that much faster.
well, speaking of flying, did you
Hmm.
fly North by Northwest?
Oh, that's good, Marty.
And I'm not even Northwest doesn't exist anymore as an airlines, if I'm correct. They got swallowed up.
I don't know.
But they were a major airline. So North by Northwest is the film we're
Oh,
going to talk
so,
about. 1959, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, written by Ernst Lehman. And I read something that said somebody sent him mistaken identity, like 3 words. And from that, he kind of put together the whole script
Mm-hmm.
of North by Northwest. Interesting kind of background.
Yeah.
Stars Cary Grant, Eva Marie Saint, James Mason, Martin Landau, Jessica Royce Landis, who I believe is the mother
Yes.
of Cary Grant in this, Roger Thornhill in this
Mm-hmm.
movie, and Leo G. Carroll. Leo G. Carroll has been in more Hitchcock films. Did you see that or did you read that?
I looked at him and I thought, boy, he is so familiar. And I'm starting to see that kind of thread running through a lot of the movies we've talked about so far. It's like I noted that person. Where have I seen them before? So then I go and I look it up. I'm like, oh yeah, they played that character. Jessie Royce Landis. She was
Hmm.
also in To Catch a Thief.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, she played the mother in that movie with Grace Kelly.
Yeah, and Hitchcock
Mhm.
did this. He used a lot of his actors over and over, but I think
Yes.
Leo G. Carroll takes the record of
Okay.
6, whereas I think both Cary Grant and James Stewart were in 4 of the Hitchcock films, but Leo G. Carroll was in 6, and you might know Leo G. Carroll as Mr. Waverly from The Man from Uncle, the television show The
No,
Man from Uncle.
I didn't watch that a whole lot. That wasn't one of my
Oh
biggies.
well, I wa-
Yeah.
I watched a lot of stuff, but
Yeah.
not necessarily all good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And then,
he was the head of the agency basically
hmm,
that Napoleon Solo and Elia
okay.
Kuryakin worked for.
What about Ned Glass? You know who I mean?
Ned Glass.
He was a ticket agent at the train station who said to Cary
Okay.
Grant, "What's the
Oh
matter
yeah.
with you?" Yeah, yeah. He was in Charade.
Okay.
He was one of the really bad guys in Charade. And he was also in The Fortune Cookie with Jack Lemmon and Walter
Lemon.
Matthau.
Yeah.
Because I looked at him too and I thought, boy, you look familiar. And so I went back and, looked him up.
And I don't think Eva Marie Saint did any other Hitchcock films. And it's interesting about his leading women. Hitchcock was not known for his sensitivity with women, and as a result, I think they were in one they felt like they didn't want to go through that experience again.
Mm.
So, but yeah, she that this is the movie that made me fall in love with Eva Marie Saint.
Oh, she's beautiful.
She's
Absolutely
stunning in this.
beautiful. Yeah, and her
Absolutely stunning in
voice.
this.
And there were a couple minor characters. Maudie Prickett. She was the maid in the hotel.
Okay, yeah,
She she played a cook in the Harvey movie. She was in Hazel. She was in Bewitched, and she was in Andy Griffith. Because
yeah.
once again, I looked, and she had that same hairstyle every time.
Pulled
She's
up
like
and
a
pulled back.
character
Yeah,
actor. Yeah, pull
yeah,
up that bun. And I thought, boy, I recognized her. And in the very, very beginning, and I wouldn't have realized this until I started digging for some trivia, Donna Douglas, who was in the Beverly Hillbillies.
yeah.
She was in in the very opening scene, just one of the extras walking by, and she crossed in front of Cary Grant and his secretary. But they really kind of, if you watch it again, they kind of really took their time looking at her more so than anybody else. And I heard that Hitchcock gave her a longer presence on screen, that he was trying to help her career, boost her career a little bit. I don't
Yeah,
know.
the opening sequence. I saw this film the first time as part of my film classes when I was in college. I think we did 2 films by an artist, and we saw Psycho and we saw North by Northwest. And
Okay.
the the person that does the music for it, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I've got
His
this.
Yeah, he is. He's been used a lot by Hitchcock through the films. Is it Edward Herman?
No. Oh, I had that somewhere. I'm not sure. Um,
Well, he's done a lot of
but
his, and he's known for that kind of, and I think he also did the music for Psycho, has a kind of thrashing, moving
mhm.
kind of aspect. That was what was really noted in terms of this film. I mean, the film itself was great, but the music was very important in it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And then the title sequences
Love that.
where they have the crosshair, the cross lines, and the
Hmm.
the titles fly in.
Yeah.
That was one of the first times it was ever done, and I think the title sequencing, whoever did that, won an award for that. And then it's
That was,
transition into a glass building. Yeah.
yeah, that was Saul Bass.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it's kinetic typography,
Yeah.
what they
And
call
Saul
it.
Bass is known for other titling sequences too in films.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because I have been told by a number of people that I see things differently. And when I people would say that to me, I'm like, what do you mean? And I won't drop any names, but I've been told, like, if we're just driving down the road, I'll say, look at how that road comes to a point. And they're like, what? As well, look at that interesting use of perspective. Look at the tree line, or look at the, I'm always pointing things out. And I think everybody sees things that way. And I've been told that no. And I guess that comes from my art background, but I guess I do see things differently. But that's one of the reasons I really enjoyed this movie because I think artistically it was very, very interesting. Lots of perspective and distance and light and shadow. And I just thought it was just a beautiful movie in that respect and a very
Yeah.
interesting one.
Yeah, and a cinematographer that he had also
Hmm.
used in previous films. They talk about in this film how Hitchcock kind of focuses on blues and whites,
Hmm. Hmm.
and also like there's red themes throughout it. Even Marie Saint was in red dresses quite a bit in the film,
Yes.
and that stood out in terms of the process. There's just so much packed in this. I'd encourage listeners or viewers to
Hmm.
just research all the cool things about this film. And then if you haven't seen the film in a while, then watch the film, you'll see it in a different perspective.
Exactly. Yeah, when you referred to the red, this film is almost monochromatic if you think about it. It's very. I mean, Cary Grant wore that same suit, that gray suit throughout the whole movie. Everything else is very muted, very soft, and then, like you said, there's these pops of red. And if you kind of go back and rewatch it, some of it is quite significant. And a lot of times you'll see these pops of red right before something is going to happen. So
Yeah.
it's more of a sign of a danger. There's quite a few references. So again, if viewers go back and watch that, you'll say, "Oh, there's the red. Something's going to happen."
Yeah, again, I can't recommend more that if you want to see this film, and particularly after our conversation with it, look up as much trivia as you can on it.
Hmm.
And I'm sort of a place bound person, so one of the things that I look up is locations of where things were shot.
Yeah.
So, like we mentioned in the last one we did was Some Like It Hot. It was supposed to be in Florida, but it was actually Coronado Hotel in California. Coming from Chicago, living during my college years in Central Illinois, I was really fascinated about the bus scene. I guess is
Yeah.
the way to describe it, or
Mhm.
the crop duster scene is probably the best way to describe it.
Yes.
And so I wanted to know what the location was, and she rattles it off. Emery Saint rattles it off and says Route 41 and the something point. And so of course I immediately get on
Looked it up.
Google Maps and put it in. And they
Okay.
show that there is a location in Indiana, which would coincide with the fact that he was on a bus to Indianapolis from Chicago,
Right.
at that location. However, that's not where it was shot.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was shot 90 miles south of Los Angeles, I guess close enough to Bakersfield, but out in the middle of Wasco, I think is the town, or close to
Or
Wasco.
Waco or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I'm searching around for it, and sure enough, there's a guy who does like history of films, and he takes a trip out to the location and tries to show after all these years, this is where we think it is. If you look at the water
Mm,
tower, and particularly the unique telephone wires and the telephone
hmm.
poles that are in the background, they're still there. So this must be where the scene was shot. Apparently, they had the Boy Scout, because there was nothing out there, and there even in current day there's nothing out there. But they needed corn, so they had the Boy Scouts of the local town come out and plant corn so he could have corn by the time he did that
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah. I heard that as well.
There's so much in that, just in that sequence. That is the sequence that I think most
Yeah.
people are familiar with.
Yeah. And that's one I've watched again. I've watched it over and over again. And um, one of the things I found most interesting was the lack of music in that portion of the film.
Yeah.
I mean, that was part of the suspense because it was just like deafening silence, except for the rustle of the corn and, the roar of the crop duster and the vehicles going by. And you just didn't know. I mean, it was just like eerie silence until, the plane hit the truck and it exploded.
And then
Yeah.
you get that music,
Hmm.
that powerful music that's part
Right,
of
right.
the suspense or the action
Yeah.
that's in this
Yeah.
film. Another bit that I heard, Cary Grant, obviously did some shots on site there.
Hmm.
Walking across the road, talking to the guy who gets dropped off.
Sure.
That's all Cary Grant. But running from the corn out to where the truck collides, or the crop duster collides with the truck, that's a
Hmm.
double, and it's not really well
Really?
covered.
I didn't know that.
If you look, when you see the back shot of him running towards the truck to kind of wave the truck down, you get
Right.
that shot. You can see the guy's got kind of a wig on. It's not really very well covered. He's much bigger than Cary Grant. He's much
Okay.
broader shoulder. And the stunt double went out and did that scene. Then they did the close up with Cary Grant trying to
Mm.
trying to stop the
Right, right,
truck.
right, right, right.
And then the truck knocks down, or it appears as if the truck knocks down Cary Grant. It's really the stunt double. And the stunt double is who crawls out from underneath the truck.
Oh, I'll have to go
A,
back and
a
watch
little
that again.
a little bit of story about that. The person who is responsible for the costuming, and in particularly Cary Grant's suit, which, by the
Mhm.
way, is considered like one of the best suits in movies, and it wound up starting a trend in terms of
Okay.
that suit, that kind of
Yeah, I
simple
heard that too.
gray film, gray suit. The woman who was it was a woman who was responsible
Of
the
course.
for the costuming, forgot to put the crop dusting on Cary Grant, the crop dust on his suit. And so
Huh.
they go through and they shoot the scene, they pack it, they call it a day, and they go back and look at it and they realize he was
Oh,
crop
no.
dusted and there's no crop dust on him.
You didn't
So
get
they
dirty.
had to go back and shoot that scene the
Oh,
next day. She said she was like so embarrassed.
oh.
And so, but it was a continuity thing. And we've
Yeah,
talked about continuity
talked
in,
about
in
that.
other
Sure.
in other uh, other movies that
Right.
we've carried about.
Yeah, and I'm just looking through some of my notes. Yeah, the crop dusting scene was in Bakersfield, California, and the local farmers had to clear their crops for that sequence.
Really,
Yeah,
except for the corn
except
that
for
the
the
Boy Scouts
cornfield.
planted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it says it was a specially modified Stearman biplane that was painted to resemble the crop duster plane.
But the actual collisions were done with models.
Yes. Yeah.
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 Then they did the close-up shots probably with the burning close-up shots and stuff like that. But the actual being able to do that was done with models,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yeah.
that was the first time I heard that, and then it's like, yeah, of course that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And I also, I'm sure you're probably more familiar with this. I read that they used large matte paintings for some of the backgrounds.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because they weren't allowed to film, obviously, at Mount Rushmore and the UN building and the Van Dam house at the very end, which, again, I love that because it was, modeled after Frank Lloyd Wright. Um, those were all very large matte paintings that were used.
yeah. And you can see that obviously in
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
United Nations
Yeah.
building. Some exterior stuff with the United Nations building, which was interesting. If you watch that scene, Hitchcock shot it from across the street because he
Hmm.
couldn't shoot on the grounds. And
Right.
Cary Grant goes up the steps. And when he hits the top of the steps, apparently someone coming down the steps, kind of a large older guy, double takes. And he's like,
Yep. Yep.
he
Like,
recognizes that it's Cary
oh,
Grant
I saw
and
that.
left that in. Yeah. So
I saw that.
and then they go in the building and it really does look like he's walking around on top of a painting.
It
You know,
does. Yeah.
Matt was pretty good back then, but Hitchcock used it extensively. And then the scene when the overhead shot scene where he's running out of
Running.
the building, that whole thing is Matt.
Oh
And it
yeah,
just,
I mean that looks I mean it's beautiful. And the colors, the blue and the yellow, and he's like this tiny little, the perspective shot was incredible. But yeah, that's it looks like you say, it just looks like a painting. Looks like almost like a Mondrian painting,
yeah, yeah.
color-wise, right?
Or a
Mondrian
Matisse, but
Matisse.
anyways,
Yeah. Yeah.
the the other piece that Hitchcock was known for, and if you watch the film and you know this, it kind of ruins the film. So I'm going to ruin it. He
Okay.
does a lot of back projection.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
whenever Cary Grant's driving in the car and he's drunk, that's all back projection.
Yeah.
So and it looks it looks kind of grainy,
Yes.
and I and a lot of his anything. So a lot of this was done in studio.
Hmm.
The cornfield that he's hiding in, that's in studio.
Hmm.
The place where the plane goes over him and he falls down into a ditch, that's all done in
Hmm.
studio with
Right.
a back projection of what the field looks like
Hmm.
behind him. Yeah, Hitchcock extensively used back projection, which at the time probably wasn't as noticeable, but nowadays it's
Yeah.
really pretty noticeable.
Yeah, and the drunk driving scene, we've seen that in how many movies with Cary
Yeah,
Grant. He's always driving along a coast. Sometimes he's driving, sometimes someone else is driving. They're always in a convertible. Um, it's very precarious, and I thought that scene has played out in quite a few movies.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
People rip off that,
oh
riff
yeah,
off that, and do it in different films.
yeah, and I'm not a real car buff, but one of the things that I thought was maybe inconsistent. Maybe you can tell me I'm wrong. But I researched to see what he was driving, and it was a Mercedes 220S convertible. Rumor was he bought that car after the movie. I don't know if he did for sure,
Yeah.
but that
In the
kind of
movie, he
car,
steals it from somebody, some neighbor or
yeah,
something. Yeah,
yeah, from the lady from the part where he got drunk at the party,
yeah.
Mrs. Whoever's convertible. Um, So he was extremely drunk in that scene, or so they made him look drunk. But he had enough sense as they were driving to push the other man out of the car and continue driving himself. And I thought, okay,
Okay.
he was really drunk, but he was able to do that. And then, of course, it goes around the cliff, and the rear wheel flies off the edge of the cliff and it's spinning around. And he kind of leans forward and he looks down over the car and goes, oh. And then magically, the car gets right back on the road and continues. And I'm thinking, I don't think that would have been possible, that that car would have been able to go from being off the cliff with the tire off the road. It would have been a rear wheel
It will drive,
type
yeah.
of, yeah, how, well, again, how did that happen? And also, I read that that type of car was a four-speed manual transmission. And I thought, yeah, again, just, little inconsistency there. Was he really driving? Was it an automatic? Was he trying to shift gears? Was there a clutch involved? But how did he get that car back on the road?
Yeah, you have to suspend some of your stuff with this.
Exactly.
I think the whole setup of the mistaken character, where he basically, someone's calling for George Kaplan to take a phone, and he really just wants to get the attention of the guy, the
Yeah.
bellhop, to get to be
Right.
able to use a phone. And he
Right.
immediately gets labeled as George Kaplan, and then kind of sets himself up to be even
Mhm.
further identified as, or misidentified as, George Kaplan by trying to find out who this guy is. Let me go check his
Yeah.
hotel out. He
Hotel
does a
room.
pretty good job of sleuthing. I've got to give
Mm-hmm.
him that.
Yeah. And he gets his mother involved too, which I think is great.
Yeah.
I love Cary Grant's relationship with his mother in this film.
Yeah.
He
Just
gets
pay
her
the
to do his
$2.
dirty work. Pay the $2. And then they're in the hotel and he says, put on that sweet, innocent smile of yours and go up to the hotel clerk and get that key. And she says, oh no, I can't do that. And he says, well, how about for $10? Oh no, nope, can't do that. So then he gives her $50. He said, how about for $50? And she went, Roger. And of course she goes up and she's exasperated, but she takes the $50, goes up and she gets that hotel key and managed to get them into the room. Hmm.
Yeah. And then she is not part of it anymore. Basically, the last time they have
Hmm.
communication around it is he's telling her, I've got to go to Chicago
Yeah, he's on the phone with
and
her.
I'm taking a train. And
Right.
he, I was curious about the train scene because, and I didn't know this because I don't know my geography very well, but a considerable amount of the window shot is them going past water
Mm-hmm.
in the train. And they're sitting in the club car. It's water outside. It looks like some type of body of water. And I had to look it up. I had to say, what's the body of water that's in? I just typed it in and out it came. That's in the train sequence in North by Northwest. And it's the Hudson River. And apparently the 20th Century Limited went from New York to Albany and followed along the Hudson River.
Mm,
Because
okay.
all of the shots were out of what would have been towards the south. So it wasn't like they were shooting against Lake Erie. So I was
Yeah.
really trying to figure out the mechanics of this and what was that water that they were spending so much time with. Later, I found from researching the film was when I talked about how Hitchcock liked to use back projection,
Mm-hmm.
they sent cinematographers out at the proper time of the day to shoot those water sequences so they could project it out like you're
Hmm.
looking at it out the windows
Right.
when they shot the scenes.
Right. Like the sunset or whatever.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
going back to that drunk driving scene, I initially thought that was a mistake because they were in Glen Cove, New York. And it just, I thought this doesn't look like a scene from Glen Cove, New York. This looks more like you're on the West Coast, like at Malibu or something. But I Googled it and looked it up, and sure enough, it was exactly what they showed. It was. I thought, okay, that was my mistake. I would not have known that.
This is
Yeah,
something I wanted to check because he's in the shower and he's singing in the rain.
Singing in the Rain.
That came out. I just checked it. It's 1952, and I thought, well, that's a bit of a throwback. This movie came out in '59, but I
Oh,
thought,
okay.
is that kind of a poke fun at that movie
Yeah.
and that movie's release? Because they do that sometimes. Things are well. We saw that in Some Like It Hot. Some
Yeah.
kind of contemporary shots across the bow.
Did you pick up on the number 13 at all in the movie?
No,
Okay. When they were on the train, and of course Carrie has nowhere to sleep, so he has to go with Eve to her train car. It was
it's a 31-0.
1309, and if you add that up, it adds up to 13, 1309. So 9 threes 12 and one's 13. And then her hotel room number was 463, and they both add up to number 13.
13.
That was just an interesting point, a little trivia that I found out too that I wouldn't have really paid much attention to.
Yeah,
So
I'm
she
looking.
was number 13 in both
13.
those instances.
I'm looking at my notes, and it's not Edward Herman. Edward Herman played on the Gilmore Girls as the dad. It was Bernard Herman that did all the orchestration,
Oh,
and
okay.
he did it with. He did it on North by Northwest. He also did it on Psycho.
Hmm.
I'm
And there
trying
are
to
quite
think.
a lot of inconsistencies. I'm sure we'll get to that. And
Yeah.
lots of funny lines and scenes. Like you said, this movie was just packed full from the very beginning. I just started typing notes and writing notes, and yeah, I had to watch it quite a few times just to kind of get it all in there.
Well, why don't you give us a few more of those that you're aware of,
Sure.
and we'll
Okay.
see if that triggers anything with me. But
Okay.
let's see what we have to share.
All right. So one of the most notable, I'll say, is when they're in the cafeteria at Mount Rushmore. And of course, they have this planned ahead of time, but Eve's getting ready to shoot him with her fake gun and the fake bullets. And she's left handed, by the way. I noticed that when she was writing the note before she went to the auction, she's a left hander. And I only noticed that because I'm left handed. But anyway, they're in the cafeteria, and there's several instances of red, pops of red in the cafeteria. And the one in particular is a woman. She has a bright red sweater, and she's sitting directly behind Cary Grant right before the shooting. And if you look off a little bit to the right, when Eve comes up to shoot him, she pulls the gun out of her purse, and there's a little boy in the background off to the right, little boy with dark hair. And this happens about maybe 5 seconds or so before she actually shoots him. He goes like this, and he puts his head down and he covers his ears. And that happens way before she shoots him. I
Yeah,
don't know if you noticed that or not.
that's a notorious story about that particular scene. The
Mhm.
question, he knew what was going to happen, and he didn't
Yeah,
like the noise.
right.
Why Hitchcock didn't do another take on that?
Exactly. Did he miss that? Did he leave that in on purpose? Yeah.
Or, you could say, well, the boy saw the gun come out and he was afraid someone was going to get shot and he
Uh,
covered his ears.
I thought that, but then when I watched it back, I'm not sure he really did see the gun because she kind of had her purse in the
That's
way.
right.
And I
Yeah.
thought, I he would have had to been looking. He wasn't that close, and I don't think because I thought that too. Maybe he saw the gun, but I don't think that was possible.
Yeah.
So when we were talking about the matte backgrounds, when they were in the, it was toward the end of the movie, when they're in the kind of, I'll call it the woods area, when the professor brings Cary Grant up to meet with Eve one last time. Did you notice when they took him out of the cafeteria after he had been shot, and they put him into that green, I guess like an ambulance type of
Yeah.
vehicle? They lifted up the hatch in the back and carries on a stretcher, and they slid him into the vehicle, closed it down. This is one I watched quite a few times again because I thought that wasn't right. So they closed it down. It was just a hatch that they closed, kind of like my car, which is like a little station wagon. And they drive into this wooded area, park it, and this time they release a bottom part, and then the top part lifts up separately, and they pull Cary Grant out.
Huh.
It was a completely different. It was the same color,
But different
but the
rear end.
back, yeah, different rear end, completely different. And so when they're driving, this is the other thing, when they're driving into this area, they have all these trees, and the car kind of brushes by the one tree and it wobbles back and forth. And it's really obvious. I watched that two or three times. Like, that tree just moved. That tree shouldn't have moved. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're giving your observational piece that you talked about, that the way you're able to observe stuff and share it around these movies. You're giving folks a reason to watch it a second or third
Watch
time
it
to look for
again.
the wobbly tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the final sequence, even though you kind of feel like cheated because you know it's being done on a model. Not
Yeah.
that you would want Cary Grant on the face of Mount
No,
Rushmore doing scenes,
no.
but still, again, there's a lot of matte background and such with it. I think my favorite line from there is when they shoot, guess the Martin Landau character, and God, I've lost his name. And James Mason goes, "Using a gun, that's not very sporting."
Sporting of you. Yeah. Using real bullets. I think he
Using
says.
bullets.
Using real bullets. Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
maybe that was a throwback to the fact that they used fake bullets on Cary
uh
Grant. Now that you mention
yeah,
it,
you're right. You're right. I hadn't thought about that.
the
Yeah.
the thing that I noticed also about that was when they put Cary Grant in the back of the car or wagon, they didn't cover his face.
No,
I was like, that's
I
so
figured
strange.
they
They
did
got it.
that because he wasn't dead.
Yeah, but
But
if they're trying to do the ruse that he has been shot and he's a
mm,
victim,
yeah.
you would cover his face. And then also to think as an actor, I would have to lay on that stretcher and
Mm,
because the cameras are on me, be immobile for
yeah.
that purpose.
Yeah. And speaking of his face, um, he really didn't disguise himself too well on that train either, did he?
No,
I mean,
no,
he basically put a pair of sunglasses on,
yeah.
and that was it. But I thought it was interesting when he came out of the, where is it? Yeah, when he came out of the train with Eve, he was disguising himself as a red cap holding her luggage.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he looked perfect in that uniform. The hat fit him, the shirt, the pants. Yeah, everything fit him perfectly. And then they cut back to the man that he took the uniform from. And he's this little skinny guy, little short, scrawny guy, and he's counting his money, that obviously he was bribed by. And I thought, well, there's no way that uniform would have fit him, but it did.
There's so much in this film. There's
Mhm.
one. I want to share one piece that we haven't talked about,
Okay.
and then maybe you have one or more pieces to, and we can end off what we're talking about.
Okay.
Folks, if you haven't seen this film or haven't seen it in a long time, look up the trivia on it, and then watch the film. It will enrich the nature of your watching experience, and you'll have an appreciation for the film going piece. I want to talk about Martin Landau and his decision to play it gay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I never really saw it that way when I saw it. It's so subtle. You just
Mm-hmm.
think he's kind of a Weasley little guy who works for Philip Van Dam, works for
Yeah.
James Mason.
Yeah.
Apparently, Mason was kind of upset that Landau did that. They stayed good friends, but he didn't know how to play against that.
Mm-hmm.
But Landau checked it out with Hitchcock and with the writer, and they both said, "Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. That's cool." And so it was interesting. I think the only reference to it is when he says he's challenged on something. He goes, "Oh, it's just my women's intuition."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
just
agree with you. In fact, I'm sorry, Marty.
no, go ahead.
I didn't even notice it. I think the first time I watched the movie, which was years ago, and then I watched it back and I thought, huh, that's a little interesting dynamic. And then there was a little something at the auction that was said too. That was just a little bit
Mm-hmm.
strange. And I like you, I looked it up and I thought, "Ah, I never even put two and two together as far as that relationship was concerned. Because, like you said, it was so subtle. And then I thought, well, what was the point of it? Um,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But yeah, it was
Yeah,
there.
Landau, this was his first big movie, so he was rather
Mm,
concerned about how this could be a risk for him in terms of his career. And actually,
yeah.
propelled his career much better. Not that he was playing LGBTQ or gay men
Mm,
for the rest of his career, but his style in this movie kind of showed a depth to his acting ability that people hadn't seen before.
mm-hmm.
I guess Hitchcock saw him in a play in New York, and that's why and how he got cast for that particular role.
Okay.
So that's that one last thing makes me laugh every time. It's very subtle.
Okay.
Cary Grant shaving with that tiny little razor. The guy looks over. His face is all full of shaving
I know what
cream,
you're going to say.
and
Uh-huh.
then his hair is kind of messed up. It's not the typical Cary Grant stylish look. And then
Right.
he shaves right underneath his nose, and he looks
Yep.
back and he shakes his head, and you realize he looks like Hitler.
Hitler. Oh my God. I didn't know whether I should say that or not. I thought, oh my gosh, because that's my exact reaction to that. And I thought, yeah, I watched it back and I thought, yep, he just did that one little with that tiny little razor.
Yeah, and
I thought that was great.
it didn't click with me till this time. It's the hair that also helps that. The hair is
Yeah,
kind of little is not the typical stylish Cary Grant. So
right, right.
yeah. Anyways, that's my piece.
Okay.
Anything else?
I think for me, I loved the scene when Cary Grant's in the police station after he was drunk driving because even as a drunk, he's still pretty much in control, but he gets out these one-liners, you know. He's like, I want a policeman, I want a policeman. And they're like, well, where do you think you are? And then when he gets this one phone call, who does he call? He calls his mother. And he makes the policeman dial the phone for him. And he says, Mother, this is your son, Roger Thornhill. And he's just so deadpan. And you can't hear her on the other line, but she's obviously asking him what's going on. And he says, oh, no, Mother, I haven't been drinking. And he's just as serious as can be. No, I haven't been drinking. They poured a bottle of bourbon in me. And then he says, and no, I didn't get a chaser. you
But
know,
then the mother and Cary Grant both make fun of the name of the officer,
yes, yes. What was it?
Emil.
Emil or
Yeah,
Emil? And he goes,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I didn't believe it
And then
either.
yeah, I couldn't believe it either. And then they want to give him a blood test.
Yeah.
And the doctor says, and he says, well, I'm gassed. And he said, well, we're going to give you a blood test. And he says, how disgusting. And he crawls up on the table
Yeah.
and he goes to sleep. I thought, oh
And the
gosh,
line
yeah,
where he says, "Say on," he goes, "You might want to back up."
back up, back up. Yeah.
Okay, so
And
we had a lot of fun with this.
hmm
You have
hmm
anything else you want to add?
oh, uh, just the hospital scene when I'm still not sure why they gave him all the clothes in the
Hmm.
hospital. They gave him all the new pants and shirt, and he gets dressed, and he can't get out through the door because it's locked. So he goes out through the window, walks along the building, and goes to the next window, which just happens to be open. And he's sneaking through the window, and there's this blonde girl who is a patient there, and he startles her, and she sits up in bed and turns on the light and says, "Stop." And he stops for a moment, and then she puts her glasses on and gets a really good look at him and says, "Stop." And Cary Grant goes, and out the door he goes. I thought, yeah, that's just one of those classic scenes.
We are having way too much fun about a movie that's
Mhm.
supposed to be suspense and Hitchcock.
Serious. Yeah.
But there is a lot of that, and he does that in other films, but not as much as I think that he did in this film, which made it,
Yeah.
I think, more generally kind of approachable film for folks versus
Hmm.
some of the heavier stuff that was. Do you want to mention what we're doing next time
Sure. We are going to do Gaslight.
with Charles Boyer, Ingrid Bergman, Joseph Cotton, and also Angela Lansbury's in there. And it is directed by George Cukor. So again, a bit of a suspense film, maybe in the sort of in the Hitchcock genre. I actually, when you brought it up, I thought, is this another Hitchcock film?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll take a look at that film. It's all in black and white, but a
Hmm.
very good film. And it's
Yeah.
one that I haven't seen yet. So we're going to have some fun with that.
Mm.
And I will challenge Cindy to one that she hasn't seen yet in our following
Okay.
episode. And,
Okay.
uh, you know, I might make you sit through something you regret, but
Oh, as long as it's not Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork
Anything but
Orange is a little
that.
past our genre. We
Good.
had a conversation about that
Yeah. Yeah.
off microphone that
Yeah.
I like a little bit more of the deeper twisted films, and Clockwork Orange fits that for
Yeah.
me. But there's
Yeah.
other good Kubrick ones just outside of our golden age. So
Well, I think you'll like Gaslight. It's a kind of a psychological thriller, so to speak.
yeah. So anything else you want to say before we say goodbye, or I say goodbye?
Well, I don't know if you just wanted to mention, of course, Hitchcock did have an appearance in our movie North by
Yes.
Northwest.
That's. I guess you have to mention that with every Hitchcock film.
Yeah.
I guess I won't be
Yeah. You
looking
always
for.
look for
I
that.
won't be looking for him in Gaslight.
No, no, you won't find him in Gaslight. Yeah.
Yes, two
Yeah.
minutes in,
Yeah.
and that was the point where he was like, "I need to get my appearance in quickly because people will be distracted by looking for me instead of
Mm-hmm.
watching the film." So he started
Right.
putting his appearances in because people expected it. And
Yeah.
I was when I was watching it last night, I knew where the scene was coming, and it's about exactly 2 minutes from when the film starts.
Hmm.
He
Yeah.
attempts to get on a bus,
Right.
and someone jumps in front of him, and
Yeah.
then the
And the
bus
door is
takes
shut.
off. Yeah.
Hmm. And it's always a side view. Of course, it's his profile.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
a rumor that he was in the film in another scene on the
Hmm.
car, on the train rather.
On train. I
And
heard that too.
yeah, and they said, "Oh, that looks like Hitchcock and drag."
I heard that.
And people were like, "No, maybe he would dress up in drag as kind of a joke every once in a while, and
Mm.
maybe that was him." But it actually turned out to be an actress that he had used in multiple films prior to that. So
Okay.
he only appears once,
Okay. Good
from
to
what we
know.
can tell. So thanks for doing this. It gets
Oh, thank you,
much more
Marty.
fun every time we do it,
Yeah,
and
like I said, this
much
is the
more.
best homework I've ever had. I'm really enjoying it. So thank you. Thank
All
you.
right. So thanks for joining us for another episode of Fade to Chat, Golden Age Cinema. Be sure and subscribe on YouTube. That's at youtube.com/@fade to chat. That's our channel. You can find us there. You can also email us at ThePodTalkNetwork@gmail.com. Check out our previous conversations. We're on to our third film. This is our third film now. And so there's other fun films to listen to and talk about, classics that will never grow old. So if you haven't listened to them, the shows will be just as good and just as fresh. So thanks for joining us, and we enjoy doing this project, and keep the projector rolling.